What if I told you that everything you think you have to do during the holidays is a choice you can unchoose? That the stress, the travel, the guilt, and the endless shopping, it's all optional. Today, we're talking about how to reclaim your holiday, and I'll show you how I've done this in the past for my family, and I'll show you how sometimes I skip the holidays altogether, and how you can give yourself full permission to design a season that feels peaceful, joyful, and authentically you. Whether you're with a house full of kids or spending the day completely solo, let's dive in and redesign a holiday season that doesn't drain the life out of you. You're listening to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Tina Stinson, and I had a stroke at the age of 39 from stress and burnout that shook my world. Now I'm laying it all out, the deep level self-care practices and mindset shifts that I needed that kept me healthy, balanced, and thriving. Join me in this intimate space as we explore healing, resilience, and the soul's journey to alignment. This is where real conversations about deep-level self-care happen. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I'm excited for today's episode. Today's episode is a solo episode, but I am talking all about the holidays, which seems to be on a lot of people's minds, at least in my circles, because everybody's kind of tired of the, consumerism and the greediness of the billionaires and the corporations. And so everyone's trying to be more mindful. I shouldn't say everyone. I said a lot of people are trying to be more mindful of this holiday season and where they purchased gifts from, using small businesses more than anybody else. And there's even some people protesting the big corporations, myself included. And so, as you know, I kind of have an interesting way of celebrating the holidays. I feel like it was like in 2020 when our family decided it wasn't going to be a thing where we forced everybody to get together on that one day, where we would vow to get together and every year get together. And we do that. We manage to do that, but it's not always at the holiday time. So, I just play it by ear. Sometimes I celebrate, sometimes I don't. I don't do the big buying gifts for everyone kind of a thing. I make things all year round. I grow garlic, and so I make my own skincare. You guys know that. And so a lot of the gifts that I give are just things that I make. And I really believe that's the way to go. But that's my belief. Everybody has different beliefs. I also don't have small children, so I'm not in that realm of the pressure that you have to maybe buy certain things or do certain things. But I do think there's a good and a bad way to do the holidays. And I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in. And one of the things I do want to make clear is that you are allowed to redefine and redesign your holidays so that they work for you the way you want to experience them without experiencing massive amounts of stress. You can do this. It seems like every year, as soon as Halloween ends, sometimes even before Halloween ends, everybody collectively loses their mind and you're blasted with just ads and music and emails and oh my God, it's so annoying. I almost wish I could just block everything sometimes. And then they tell you that it's supposed to be the most magical time of the year. Well, you can experience this. You can. But for some people, I have to say, it's not always magical. Some people don't get along with their families. Some don't have anybody to spend the holidays with. Some people are grieving. Some are exhausted. Some dread the travel, the pressure, the cost, the expectations, and some just don't vibe with the whole thing at all. Some people just don't want to celebrate the holidays, and they don't. But here's the truth. No one says it out loud. You're allowed to redefine your holidays for you. You're not obligated to follow society's rules, especially when those rules feel more like unpaid labor mixed with consumerism and a dash of guilt, right? So this season can be whatever you want it to be. And I really do mean that. Now, the more people that you're spending the holidays with, like say you have, 3 children and a partner, and then you have family that live close by, and there's a lot of pressure, it could be harder to like redesign your holiday. I'm going to full on admit that. But it is not impossible because you can have complete creative control, okay? Any type of tradition that you have are just habits that somebody invented a long time ago, probably a man, but usually in a time when women were doing all the work. And society's current version of the holiday, let's be honest, it's become like a billionaire enrichment festival disguised as a family bonding, right? So let's toss that script and start over. You get to decide what the holidays mean to you. And sometimes, a lot of us haven't even done that. We haven't even sat down and asked ourselves, what do we want it to look like? We just complain about it, right? Some people love it, right? Some people are 100% in. But I would have to say the majority of people are not. You get to choose how you spend your time. You get to define what feels good, what feels nourishing, peaceful, and joyful. No rules, no shoulds, no mandatory performances. You get to create new rituals for yourself and your family. Of course, you do have to work with your family. I'm not saying you like call all the shots and that's the end all of everything, right? So you are working with other people here. But why does reinventing help, especially as your life changes? So your life shifts and your relationship shifts. So your needs shift as you move through life. Everybody's do, right? So why shouldn't your traditions shift also? When I went through my divorce, I reinvented my holiday. It wasn't really, I didn't think it was good or helpful to pretend that everything was the same. We moved into a new house. We had a new rhythm and definitely a new reality. It was very different from the old reality. So I created new traditions for me and my kids. Small things, cozy things that made the season feel like ours instead of a reminder of what had changed or what we had lost, right? And these traditions like live on today. So one of the funniest ones was when I got divorced, I ended up moving into my house like right around Christmas time to the point where everything was still in boxes and I couldn't do the big Christmas dinner. I mean, maybe I could have pushed it, but I wasn't going to push myself. I was exhausted, right? And so it was Christmas Eve. Normally on Christmas Eve, there's a big dinner, like in my family, a big Italian family. We would have a big dinner, like usually pasta, like lasagna, baked ziti, that kind of thing. And it was a big deal. It was a big thing. And I was like, I can't do this. And so we ordered Chinese food and we ate Chinese food on paper plates. And that became part of our tradition. To this day, we have Chinese food on Christmas Eve. And it's amazing. It takes so much pressure off. Everybody loves Chinese food. And you know what? It's part of our tradition. And you have a big dinner usually on Christmas Day. So why do that 2 days in a row? I don't know. The Italians are crazy when it comes to cooking. So that was part of a tradition. Now, another really funny tradition is I started this thing where on Christmas Eve, because I always got my kids' pajamas, including myself also for Christmas Eve. And so on Christmas Eve, I started a tradition where an elf would come to the door and drop off new pajamas for all of us to wear on Christmas Eve. And so, I had to get someone to come to the door, ring the doorbell, and leave this wrapped gift of Christmas pajamas right on the stoop. And it happened every year. As my kids got older, so there's a big age difference between my oldest child and my middle child, like 7 years. And so this year, my oldest was going to be the elf dropping off because she knew about the elf at this point. She was a teenager. And then my youngest my middle child, he was getting to be at that age where, he was questioning things. And so he was like, I'm going to chase after the elf this year and catch the elf and see who is it? Who's the elf? So he was questioning this. And so he was just waiting for it. And then when she came and rang that doorbell, he flew out the door and chased her all through the neighborhood. It was so freaking funny. And that was the last year. My daughter was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But we still do this to this day. And when my oldest daughter, when my kids were grown and we all kind of ended up in our, different places that were far away from each other, And my oldest daughter was away from home and we couldn't spend Christmas together one year. One of her friends reached out and said, what can I do to make her feel comfortable at Christmas time since she can't be around her family this year? And I told him about the tradition of the Chinese food and the pajamas. And so all her friends got together. They had like a pajama party and had Chinese food with her. And I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. And they still do it to this day. It's just like a thing that they do. They get together, have Chinese food. They have a little gift giving thing that they do with each other. And they come in their pajamas and comfy clothes. And I just absolutely love that this tradition has kind of like morphed its way into like a big friend Christmas, you know? So it's just really kind of cool. Now that my kids are grown, I've kind of reinvented the holidays again. So I don't do the marathon shopping, the stress, you know, all the stressful things. I got to the point where, you know, my kids, all three of my kids worked in the service industry or still do at some point in time. And you have to work a lot around the holidays, right? It's busy. And so trying to get everybody together on the holidays was so stressful. And I felt horrible putting that pressure on my kids. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like that was a holiday thing to do. And so we just changed the way we did things. And we get together many times a year. If we get together on a holiday, sometimes we do, that's fantastic. If not, it's not a big deal, okay? I don't travel just because a calendar says that I should travel, and I don't make them do that either. I know that no matter what, I'm going to get together with all of my kids. We're all going to get together at some point, and I can give my kids presents any time of the year. So I acknowledge the season. I love it. I enjoy parts that feel so nostalgic because my mother was a holiday freak. She loved every holiday and she went over the top for every holiday. So some of the things, some of those, those really fun rituals that we had, I still do. And I skip the parts that feel forced or draining, like the travel and the forced hangout on that one day a year when everybody's trying to travel and hang out on that same day. Honestly, it's liberating. I remember the first hint that this was changing and shifting was when my kids were, excuse me, let me just take a drink here. It was when my kids were younger and we all got like a stomach bug around Christmas and then Christmas was kind of canceled. So we didn't spend time with family or anything like that. We hung out in our pajamas all day and just watched TV. And it turned out to be like a really good Christmas for all of us. We all enjoyed the fact that we didn't have to travel. I was always the one that had to travel because my mom and dad and my brother lived somewhere and I lived further away. So I was always the one that came to them, even though I was like the single mom with 3 kids. I don't know why. I was always the one that traveled and it was exhausting for all of us. And I think the kids kind of like enjoyed it, not having to do it, just being at home. You know, they like being at home. So that was the first sign that, you know, the regular way we celebrated Christmas was not completely aligned. So you're allowed to do that. Every year, if you want, you could change the way you celebrate the holidays. There's absolutely no rules. If you're not religious too, and you know, I mean, why would you put yourself through all the stress, right? Do the things that really feel aligned and fun to you. And if that's everything, then that's everything. So like I said earlier, you really have to ask yourself what you really want. So if you stripped away the guilt, the pressure, the traditions that don't fit anymore, and the expectations from family, we know how heavy those are, what would you choose? So think about it. So do you want to spend the holidays with your family, or would you rather spend time with friends, or even solo? Do you crave like a quiet celebration? Would you rather travel somewhere warm than freeze your way through December? Do you want to volunteer, help others, or spend the season in service? Do you want to make gifts instead of buying them? Do you want to treat the holiday as a season rather than a single day? Do you want to skip it entirely and treat it like a regular day? I've done that. It's kind of cool. Nothing's off the table. And you don't need a reason to choose differently. You don't have to like make it an excuse for it. You know, there's so many beautiful ways to redesign the season. And here are some ideas to spark your imagination, just in case you're like, I don't know what I want. So you can kind of focus on like connection and community, which I think is really important at Christmas. You could host like a low key, low pressure potluck with friends, like what my daughter's friends did. You could have a cozy craft night where everybody comes and you do like crafts together, and you could even make them as gifts. You can start a new tradition with like your chosen family instead of your biological family. That's for all the people out there who don't get along with their family. You can create like a warm drink night, like tea, hot cocoa, and conversation. There's so many different settings that you can create. You could just spend the holidays by yourself, or maybe you are by yourself. So what do you want to do? You could take yourself on a personal retreat. You could book a cabin or go to the beach. You could have a movie and favorite food marathon at home. You could use the day for rest, reflection, or absolutely nothing. So one of the things that I'm doing for Thanksgiving, first of all, I think Thanksgiving is kind of a horrible holiday. So I've decided to redesign it. I don't think we should celebrate like us coming to this country and decimating a population of the locals. But if you think of it as a day to be grateful, then that's a beautiful way to do it. But Thanksgiving's never been like terribly important to me, but I do like the food. I like the sides. So because I'm in the middle of moving, I'm packing, and this week is my packing week. This is the week where I'm hunkering down and getting it most of it done, because I have a little travel I have to do at the beginning of December, and then I'm moving, right? So I'm getting my packing done this week. And so Thanksgiving Day, I am packing and I'm going to watch. I like watching the parade. I like watching the dog show. And obviously I'm going to make food, right? And that's it. I'm going to be by myself. I mean, I might hang out with my dad a little bit, but I'm not doing the big Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't miss it. Now, if I happen to be living near my daughter, which is where I'm moving, and they're having a Thanksgiving celebration, I'm going to go because I want to be with family and I want to be with friends, right? So I'm going to go. So it's not that I'm against celebrating the holidays. It's that I'm going to do what feels aligned at that moment. And this week, my alignment is with packing and getting myself ready for my move. You can create, do a creative or a handmade holiday, which I think a lot of people are doing this year. You could paint, do crafts, bake, make skincare, preserve foods, jams, create art, write letters instead of buying gifts, support local artists and makers instead of big corporations, right? We talked about that a little bit at the beginning. I think you should do that every holiday season. Some alternative things that you could do is you could celebrate before or after the actual holiday with family so that the travel isn't as stressful. You could treat December as a season, not a single day, so that you could spend you can do like holiday celebrations with a lot of people instead of trying to get together with every single person on one day. I think there's a movie about that, right? 4 Christmases or something like that. There's a couple movies about that, like going to like 5 different houses on Christmas. You could redefine tradition as whatever feels good for you this year, just like I did after my divorce. You could just create new traditions that align with what you want to create. You can have small gatherings instead of one high pressure event, like I talked about. You have, say you're married, you have a partner. So you have their family, you have your friends, you have all these different groups. So why not just have different celebrations on different day instead of trying to force everything in one day? Excuse me. And you could decide that the holidays is about giving back. So you could volunteer with a local shelter or community kitchen. You could sponsor a family. You can make like care kits for people who are homeless. You could donate time or skills instead of buying gifts. You could travel. You could use it to travel. I was just watching a movie. I think it's the 4 Christmases movie, right? Where they usually travel and I think they lie to their family and tell them that they're doing like volunteer work in all these different countries and they get busted or something like that. But, legitimately you could travel. You could spend the holidays somewhere warm and bright. You can go somewhere snowy and go skiing. You could take a spontaneous trip just because you can, right? You have that time off. Why not take a trip? Now, for parents, I know it's different to redesign your holiday when you have children because there's a lot of expectations and pressure, and I understand that. So thinking about creating meaningful experiences instead of a mounting of presents. So how can you start to make that shift for your kids, especially if they're little and you haven't had a lot of Christmases with them yet? You could make those changes now. You could bake cookies, watch movies, do crafts, decorate together, teach kids about community and giving and creativity, and have fun with it. Or you don't have to celebrate at all. If you're not religious and you're not into the holiday, you could just skip it. I remember one year I went for a run on Christmas Day, and it was so quiet. It was eerie, and I absolutely loved it because no one really goes for a run on Christmas Day, but it was fantastic. So when you're kind of moving in a different direction as like a large percentage of the population, it feels very peaceful sometimes. You could treat it as a normal day with extra snacks, and you could clean, you can organize, you could do a reset, you could dive into like a passion project. So let me tell you, I've done a lot of these things that I'm listing here, and it is so freeing to let go of the have-tos and the shoulds. So there's no wrong answer here. This can change every single year. Maybe this year is quiet. Maybe next year is festive. Maybe some years feels joyful and some years it feels a little tender. Maybe you reinvent it again when your family shifts, when your kids grow up, or when life changes. Holidays should bend to your life, not the other way around. The holidays don't have to be stressful or lonely or expensive, or you don't have to have all these obligations. They can be simple, they can be joyful, they can be cozy, and they can be peaceful. They can be whatever you decide they are. You're allowed to reclaim your time, reclaim your holiday. You're allowed to rewrite the script, and you're allowed to create a holiday season that nourishes you and doesn't drain the fuck out of you. So if you could change one thing this year, what would it be? Share it with me on my socials, if you could find me, or over on my Patreon, where you could follow me for free. That's what's cool about Patreon now. You could follow me. You could follow anyone for free, and it's nice because you're not on social media. You're not getting all the ads and stuff like that. You just see the stuff from the people that you follow. So I would encourage you to check that out. This is not like an ad for Patreon. I don't really make out on this, but what I like about it is I don't follow a lot of people on Patreon, but I follow a few, and that's the only stuff I see. I'm not seeing all these ads and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. So you can visit me there, but definitely share with me what you're going to change. I love hearing other people's traditions too, because, some of them are really kooky, like the Chinese food and pajama thing that we do. And some of them are super traditional. I love to hear all the different things and get some new ideas of things I might want to try in the future. Okay, guys, that is it for today. I hope that you have so much fun redesigning and redefining your holiday season. I will see you next week. Love you. Bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps get the show in front of more people who might need this type of support. And if you're ready to take your everyday self-care even deeper, come join us inside the Soul Aligned Life Patreon. Every week, you'll get new self-care practices and tools to help reduce stress and overwhelm. Plus, we do a monthly reset to keep you aligned and supported always. You'll find the link in the show notes, and I'd love to see you there. Until next time, be sure to take good care of yourself. Love you. Bye.